out on Facebook and or YouTube, whichever one you prefer for video streaming. Go to both of their websites and search ESPN Tucson, and you'll see my lovely face right there waving at you. Excellent. Thanks for joining us. In this hour, NBA playoffs, Arizona basketball, NFL draft, and then, business trips. I don't take a ton of business trips. In fact, the last time I did, I spent 5 days in an RV with that guy.
It was fun.
That was something. Parts of it were fun. Some of it. I don't know about all of it. I got the big bed. That was fun. There was basketball. That was fun. The rest of it, Stacey, I feel like we no. There's just too many things. It all started with a flat tire. It didn't really stop until we got back to Tucson. Yes.
And I had to open my mouth and say, if that's the worst thing that happens on this trip, it'll be great.
And it wasn't.
It was the easiest thing that happened on that trip.
That's probably correct. Let's talk NBA playoffs here to start this hour of power on a Monday. Don't forget, coming up at 6 o'clock, Izzy in Spain, right here on ESPN Tucson, 1490 and 1049 FM. Diamondbacks return tomorrow. Coverage begins at 4 o'clock. They are in our nation's capital, taking on the best team in baseball, the Washington Nationals. In the NBA playoffs, it appears Cleveland off to a good start against Toronto. We'll have more on that series and tonight's games tomorrow. I want to get to the Los Angeles Clippers first. I will say this, and I think it needs to be said because it's not been said enough. We're talking, Stacey, the story today, and I'm not the only one that has been trumpeting this, that, the Clippers have come to a dead end and they need to start over. Is anybody going to talk about Utah? Like, everybody's like, oh, the Clippers, they're so terrible. And then and Utah's like, oh, yeah, hey, guys, by the way, we advanced. Who?
They played 2 games without Gobert.
I tweeted this, and I was waiting for freezing cold takes to pick it up and blast me across the internet. Once Rudy Gobert went out in game 1, I said, this series, the most exciting part of the most passable series in the first round of the playoffs is now completely dead. Oops, on me.
Who do you give props to with that? I mean,
Gordon Hayward,
Quinn Snyder.
Oh, I was going to say, we've got to talk about Quinn Snyder, right?
Yeah, he's done a fantastic job with what he's got there.
Stacey, you were talking about the Clippers and teams or individuals not going above and beyond, not playing outside of themselves. Look, in the playoffs, playing well is the bottom line. It's mandatory. And to have success in the playoffs, Stacey, to your point earlier, you have to play above what you're capable of doing. You've got to find that extra gear because, as cliche as you want to be, there is no tomorrow. Whatever shortcomings you have today will be what causes the end of your season. And so you asked who, Stacey, gets the credit. First of all, you give Rudy Gobert the credit for getting healthy, coming back, and playing the way that he did. But I give every single person on that Utah Jazz roster and coaching staff credit because the adjustments they had to make going into Los Angeles and winning a Game 7, and I think one of our callers, I think it was Rick, pointed this out, that Game 7 wasn't even a game. It was over in the first 10 minutes. A couple times the Clippers said, yeah, maybe we'll make you think we're going to win this game, but they never did anything that would actually allow them to win the game. So I mean,
Joe Johnson, he's looked fabulous there.
Man, I did a double take. I'm like, oh, dude, that's Joe Johnson. Nice.
Yeah, and a good Joe Johnson.
I know, like Atlanta Joe Johnson.
This is a team in Utah that don't necessarily get all the big names and stuff.
Now, any of the big names or
a big name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's their biggest name? Is it Rudy Gobert? Is it Gore? Joe Johnson, but like Joe Johnson 10 years ago.
Joe Johnson, that's probably your biggest name there. They got some other recognizable names, Boris Diaw, and Rudy Gobert obviously has turned himself into a name. Derek Favors.
Gordon Hayward has played far beyond what anybody ever thought he'd be capable of doing other than maybe Utah themselves.
And, he's got former college teammate in Shelvin Mack there that's played very well. Dante Exum, who I know a lot of teams were really interested in. I know the Lakers were interested in him, but There's some good players there.
Couldn't let that go.
But it's Exum, whatever. Exhume.
I like that. Like what you do with a dead body, you have to check him out.
Yeah.
Let's exhume him.
So it's a good team. I mean, they won their division.
Right.
But were you expecting anything from them?
But no, but here's what's going on, Stace. You've made my point already. Is that the reason that we're talking about the losing team as opposed to the winning team is because the winning team is boring.
Well, and the
Nobody
expectation.
cares. Yeah, it's like
nobody was expecting anything from Utah. No, everybody was expecting the Clippers to compete.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. We always expect the Clippers to compete, and then they don't. So now we got to fire Doc Rivers, and I'm firm on that. It's time. It's time.
I agree.
I think that he's probably an okay coach. I think I have to wonder on that championship.
Or you just keep that team and get a new coach in there.
No, I would blow it up. Yeah, I mean, to a point. Am I going to get rid of everybody? No. But, I mean, I'm going to try to – look, do you have to, trade or not sign or dismiss every single player and coach that you have? No, but this is the ceiling. There's a wall. There's a border. Whatever it is, Doc Rivers and this group of guys – can't get past it. They made the playoffs 6 times in a row. They've been as high as a 3 seed, and they've never gotten out of the second round. Ever. Not in this administration, organization, lineup, roster, whatever. So it's up to their front office, which includes Doc Rivers, to decide why that is the case, but they have to identify what it is and then change it. And it can't continue.
Well, and it'd be one thing if, you're 2-3 years into this.
6 years. 6
That's
years.
A lot of time to be able to prove yourself, to show what you can do.
We talk about the fickle nature, the impossible job of keeping a head coaching job in the NBA. It's like impossible. But at a certain point, you can make a value judgment and say, yes, this is the sample size, and yes, we can make a decision now. Can you do that 10 games into the season? No. Can you do it a year and a half in? I don't even think you can then. Can you do it 6 years in? Hell yeah. Even the Pittsburgh Steelers would have fired this guy by now. I take that back. They would have thought about it, though. They would have thought about it. I take that back, too. Either way, I think that if you're Steve Ballmer, who wanted so badly to be an NBA owner, so much so that he doubled the investment that was necessary. He wanted to make sure that there was no way he didn't become an NBA owner. So he overpaid for the Clippers, and now he owns them. Cool. You think he's going to be content? Have you ever seen that guy at a Microsoft stockholders meeting? Google it. Google Steve Ballmer meeting, and then tell me if you think he is going to be satisfied with this. Do it. I'll even let you turn me off for a few minutes. Steve Ballmer meeting. Or Steve Ballmer stockholders meeting. It's worth your time. What would you do first, Stacey? Do you look at the players or the coach / general manager?
At this point, coach, general manager.
Well, that's the thing.
I think it's Doc Rivers.
2 birds with 1 stone, by the way, too.
Yeah.
If you want a new coach and GM, you 1 swipe.
You have a lot of talent on this team. You have a team that's assembled that should be able to go somewhere, should be able to at least be competing for Western Conference.
At least beat Utah in this round.
Yeah.
At least. I mean, I'm talking like minimum, can you get out of the first round? Last 2 years, the answer is no. And yes, I will say this, not that I'm going to give Doc Rivers too much slack, but one of the things the Clippers have had a problem with over the last few years was going into the playoffs and remaining healthy. They have had a hard time losing to Chris Paul, losing to Blake Griffin. They have not always been able to go into the playoffs. I'm not excusing.
Everybody has to deal with that.
I understand.
Though,
and again, I'm just pointing out truth. I'm not excusing anybody's shortcomings. What I said was true. Whether you want to use it as an excuse or not, that's up to you. And I'm not an excuse.
And that's the thing. I mean, if anything,
I get to say it.
You had somewhat of an advantage here with Utah playing without Rudy Gobert for a few games.
I'm not talking about this series. I'm just talking about if you look at those 6 years, how many in those seasons did they have all moving parts? again, not excusing the overall body of work, just talking about facts. I'm firing him.
I am too.
Today. And then, if I can move some players around, I'm probably going to do that too. Can you look, guys like DeAndre Jordan, guys like Blake Griffin, even Chris Paul, I'd be hesitant to move Chris Paul. I think because Stacey, you need an anchor. Mm-hmm. You don't want to change everything. You want to have a fundamental base, and if I'm picking one, I love Chris Paul.
Yeah, I think I'm building around Jamal Crawford. Yes. The guy that's only been around for 30 years.
I'm saying Jamal Crawford was drafted by the Clippers the first time when they were terrible 25 years ago. No, that was Kwame Brown.
But my bad. I would look at considering moving Blake Griffin, getting something for him.
Draft pick,
he's
youth.
Well, but
I'm saying that's what you want. That's what you want.
He's getting older, and he's obviously very injury prone.
Not only that, but he's a little unpredictable, and not in a good way. You don't always know in what direction his aura flows. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like sometimes he could be, for all you nerds out there, some kind of disruption in said force. I mean, he punched an equipment manager in the face.
Yeah,
it's not good.
I'm just thinking.
I don't care what the reason was.
And not just him, but other players on that team. DeAndre Jordan, you should easily be able to get something for.
Oh man, he's really valuable, don't you think?
A JJ Redick. I'm a sharpshooting off guard. I
might keep him.
Who is not looking for that?
I might keep him too, but because of what you said, Stacey, he might be the most valuable one. Not in you'll get the most for him, but based on what you get and what you have to give up for a guy like Redick, the ratio is high. Because you're right. But Stacey, he's one of those guys you don't trade in the offseason. You trade him at the deadline because as teams jockey for position, you say, look at this. You need a shooter? Here you go.
Yeah.
Give me all your money. Yeah. Give me all your money.
And they'll pay you that
and they'll give
and
it.
Some.
They'll give it up. Exactly, they will. So that's what I think about when you're looking at how – because people say, well, Zach, you say you want to blow it up. How do you do it? Right?
But I think the problem there is you're dealing with a team that has been in contention
6 times in a row
at that deadline, so you're not trading guys like that.
Yeah, but they need to – well, but that's why in the offseason, if you fire your coach, if you replace your general manager, if you trade some of your dudes – there's no way you're going to be in that spot. And plus, we've talked about this before with the Suns. It's different because the Suns have never been near as competitive lately as the Clippers have been. But the Suns for a while, 6-7 years ago, you end up in what I call bottom seed limbo, where you may make the playoffs, a 7 or an 8 seed, unlikely to advance, but it also knocks you out of the lottery. So you get stuck with, you made the playoffs, but your outlook is bleak. And you don't get a good draft pick. So what do you have to show for it? Nothing. Well, the Clippers have had a similar problem, is that they've been better, so they've had even worse draft prospects, but have the same to show for it. So, Stacey, not that I would suggest that they should, the tanking thing, people get so angry, but maybe you don't. Maybe even if you think you're in contention, Stacey, at that deadline, like maybe they would have been this season, or maybe they will be next year, and you say, you know what? I'm going to realize what this is. It's a mirage. We're not really in contention. It just feels like it. It may even look like it, but we're not. We've been here before. In fact, we've been here 6 times in a row before. You're not in contention. The math may tell you are. The bloviators, the talking heads like me may tell you are, but you're not. You're not. How do I know that? Because I have the tape.
Proof's in the pudding.
That's it. So even, Stacey, if you feel like you're in that position, resist, sell. Oh no, you buy. No, it's not doing you anything. Don't you want to be better, or is this what you want? Are you okay with this?
Yeah, if you're not able to beat this Utah Jazz team,
then there's no.
How are you going to compete against?
You're not
a Cleveland or a San Antonio or a Golden State.
Never.
So work towards the future. Work on getting to that point where you can do it. And they haven't made any deals really in those 6 years.
No, Austin Rivers, Paul Pierce. Well, I'm
proving Paul Pierce in.
I'm proving your point. I'm proving your point. The only deal that they made was making Mark Cuban cry and saving DeAndre Jordan. But that's not even really a deal because all it was is you kept your guy. You didn't go get him. You outmaneuvered the other team's front office. Maybe you made Mark Cuban drive around Dallas crying. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Well, there was a rumor that happened. He said no. Other people say yes. Man, it was a fun time. It was a fun saga. Good memes as well. The summer of 2015. Simpler times, my friends. Simpler times. Do I think any of this is going to happen? I do. Steve Ballmer's crazy, and he's not going to put up with this. And you know what? He shouldn't. He should. If he lets this continue, if he doesn't make changes, I'm leveling him as a bad owner because you're stuck. You're not going anywhere. We'll talk more NBA. We'll get into the Arizona Wildcats NBA Combine side of things next on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. The 11th annual Stella Artois Iron Chef Tucson returns to the Westin La Paloma June 3rd. 2 new competitors will vie for the Iron Chef Tucson crown. You can vote for your favorite now. What an American thing to do. Before you've seen anything, don't even look. Just vote right now. I mean, that's what we do, though. We just make assumptions. We'll see a tweet and go, oh, did you read the article? I mean, no, but I read the headline and made a snap judgment based on it.
But what if you've eaten at some of these restaurants, though?
Curveball. Well, like I said, you can vote now. Or, Stacey, if you want to meet these people in person on Wednesday, this Wednesday, May 3rd, you can go to the Rialto and do just that, sponsored by Rio Nuevo.
That's what I recommend you do.
The chefs. It's a lot of fun.
I believe it's $10 a ticket, $15 for a pair. You're going to get so much great food there, and being able to actually determine who gets to compete in this.
Yeah, you all decide that.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is. So the Iron Chef itself is at the Westin La Paloma June 3rd. Meet the Chefs is this Wednesday, May 3rd. That's at the Rialto. And the Meet the Chefs event is sponsored by Rio Nuevo. You can find more details at ESPNTucson.com. The Meet the Chefs, Stacey, is a fun event. And the Iron Chef Tucson is, I think it's my favorite event every year in Tucson. I really enjoy it.
Just the whole culinary experience where you get to do tastings from other restaurants, you get to do classes, just all kinds of
tastings.
Yeah.
Hey, Zach, go sit in this room and drink beer all day. Okay. Okay.
I mean, you're tasting this beer and this beer and this beer.
No, but that's the thing. Every year when we do the Iron Chef, we get to the suits who are in charge of all these things. They ask us what events do we want to do. And, man, I've never responded on email so fast in my life every year because I don't want to not get the beer classes. Yeah. Though, Stacey, you got to do some fun stuff that was not beer-related last year with the barbecue and
Yeah.
man. Can't even remember.
I can't.
All I want to do is hang out with the guy dressed like Elvis selling barbecue grills. That's my main goal every year. I think he's the king of grills. I would hope he would be at least. Okay. We'll talk NFL draft here in a few minutes. Let's talk Arizona basketball right now. I mentioned this earlier, and it feels weird to say because I don't know Kadeem Allen personally. He doesn't know me. I had nothing to do with any of the good things or the bad things that have ever happened to him in his life. But, I spent the last couple of years watching Kadeem Allen play, and the year before that wondering about what Kadeem Allen would be like when he did play. And you see guys that, there's 70 invites to the Combine, and Kadeem Allen is received one of those along with Kobe Simmons and Raleigh Alkins and 67 other NBA hopefuls. But when you stand shoulder to shoulder with the 70 invitees, how many of these guys are big-time prospects? 4 or 5-star guys, dozens of offers out of high school, and then how many of the guys were playing at Hutchinson Community College in Kansas? How many of them were sitting out a year at Arizona? How many of them took 2 years to grow into an all-conference defender? And I really thought had a good shot at winning Defensive Player of the Year. And it's amazing we talk about Kadeem Allen's defense because when he was the conference player, or the National Junior College Player of the Year, he was scoring 30 points a game. Nobody said a word about his defense. So we know he's a guy that can score, maybe not at this level, at that pace. Certainly nobody's going to be like, oh, Kadeem Allen, he's good for 30 a night in the NBA. No. But that tenacious defense, that incredible work ethic, and I have to wonder at a certain point, you can say what you want about Sean Miller and his lack of tournament success at Arizona, the lack of a Final Four, not played for a national championship. But I have to believe that there is a belief in a certain style, a certain pedigree that Sean Miller installs into his players. And they say, well, Kadeem Allen may not be the biggest. He may not be the best scorer. He may not be the most. Because here's the problem, Stacey, with a guy like Kadeem Allen is in college, we're talking about an off-the-ball scorer, an off-the-ball defender. He cannot play shooting guard in the NBA, I don't think.
I don't think so
really hard based on what he'd have to do. Not that he's not a good defender, but I would just feel like he would be outclassed and really put in a tough spot. But then you say, well, can he play point guard? Yeah.
And that's where we were talking earlier.
Kind of.
If he wants to play at this next level, he's going to have to work on his ball handling skills, his facilitating. I'm not saying he can't do it.
Yeah, but it's a long shot.
But it really is.
But look, the fact that he's in the combine is going to give him a chance to show off his very best. Those things that people may not know about implicitly or explicitly, they will know about him after that.
And that's the thing. I think he's got to go to his combine. If he can score, fine, whatever. I don't think that's where he needs to shine. He needs to be able to come in and show that I can shut down these scores.
I belong.
I can
I'm supposed
stop
to be here.
them from scoring.
Yeah.
I think if he can do that, he has an opportunity to be picked up.
I think, and I'm not comparing Kadeem Allen to Derek Williams because Derek Williams was the second overall pick in the NBA draft, and he had a great run of success at Arizona as a college player. But Stacey, I worry that Derek Williams, he fell in the middle of positions. He didn't actually land in a firm spot. Mm-hmm. He's not a 3, he's not a 4, and 3.5 doesn't really do you any good. It puts you out of position at both the 3 and the 4. And I worry that Kadeem Allen is basically a 1.5, but that's not a position. It's just in between two positions that exist. There's no shortstop in between second and third here.
Yeah, it's a situation where you have to go to the right situation. People
say that with Derek, and I don't think there is no right situation for him. There's not.
I think
I'm not saying that for Kadeem. I'm just talking about Derek.
Thinking if you're put on a team like Golden State, where
that's a good situation for me in the NBA. Come on.
But it's possible because he's not going to be a top 10 pick. He's not going to be a top 20 pick.
He's not going to be a first round. He might not be a lottery. He's not going to be a selection lottery or otherwise.
That's what I'm saying. If you're going to be drafted, a team like Golden State where you come in and you can give them some solid defense off the bench, maybe put up some scoring where you're not necessarily put in a system where it's structured. Okay, you're running the point. You're the shooting guard. It's more of a, hey, just whoever has the ball, he's capable enough to be able to bring the ball up the floor and facilitate a little bit, but also create for himself if needed.
I think the real question is he a guy that you can rely on for 5 or 6 minutes that when the guys that you need to make a real move in game are tired, can you go to him? And can he not necessarily improve the pace of play or the quality, but can he maintain the standard set by everybody else?
Yeah,
he's not driving. Can he just ride the back of the bus?
Yeah, are you going to be able to
be the driver?
Sustain a lead that you have? Are you
right?
Are you going to be able to maintain that
eliminate
12
drop
point
off
you have and not cause that to be, a 3 or a 4 point lead?
Yeah, when we bring you into the game, are you going to be a -3 or a +3? Or a -10 or a +10? I'm not going to be a +10, but you can't be a -10 either.
That's where he's got to look at himself and recognize the situation and bust his butt on defense, because I don't think offensively he's going to be able to prove that he can.
But he's shown defensively that he can and will do that.
Yes.
And I think that is what is going to be his saving grace. I think ultimately a guy like this ends up in the D-League for a while or in Europe. And those are – a lot of times people say that's, you disrespect. No, man. If you can play pro basketball, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
How many people can say that?
Very few. So, look, I know everybody wants to make it to the league and play in the NBA, but just because I don't think you're NBA quality doesn't mean I don't have respect for you as a player or your ability or your skill. It's just there are so few roster spots in the NBA. It's the most scarce of the pro sports when it comes to the team situation. That's not a knock at all. And, for Kobe and for Raleigh, the question becomes, can they prove that their upside is big? Can they show enough to make a GM believe that they're worth investing in? And for Kobe, he's not coming back. So he's going, no matter what his ultimate destination is, it doesn't matter. But for a guy like Raleigh, can he have enough dangled in front of him that makes him comfortable enough to leave? Can he elevate himself to that point where he feels like he's going to ensure himself of a solid financial future? If not, I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. I think he makes the right choice and comes back, but he's given himself the opportunity to get out front here. And then, for Chance Comanche, very quickly, no combine invite. If he doesn't want to come back to college, I don't begrudge him of that. College sucks as far as like school goes, unless you're into academia, and he likely is not. Most people that are into academia don't end up with academic violations, right? And he had to sit out a little bit earlier in the year. But if he does leave, that'll be why. Because he doesn't want to go to school. But people say, oh, yeah, idiot, he should stay. Oh, yeah, well, who doesn't want to come back? Man, I didn't want to go back. If somebody said, here, I'll pay you money, you don't have to go back to college, I'd have said, okay, see ya. Learning is good, but it only takes you so far in certain vocations, and I think basketball is one of them. Let's talk NFL draft. We'll do that next year on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. Corona and Hotel Rocky Point want to send you to the beach in beautiful Puerto Penasco, Mexico. All you have to do is go to espntucson.com/Cinco. That's espntucson.com/Cinco to register to win. You can also tune into our Facebook or YouTube pages for the video stream where you can watch the Zach Clark Show and win Corona prize packs. We gave away one today. We'll have one more to give away before Cinco de Mayo this Friday, so you'll have to stay tuned for that. Let's get on to some NFL draft talk, and we'll start with a phone call, 298-1490, All-Pro Plumbing Studio Line. Tony, how are you, sir?
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I'm totally excited about what the Minnesota Vikings have been able to do and are doing. And what I mean by that, they brought a bunch of undrafted draft picks into their fold, so they're being very aggressive. I just think they have a good team chemistry as far as the upper management goes with the recruitment, the way they go about things, the way they include the coaches and everything. So, I have to really look at it, and I really like the way they went after that Dalvin Cook guy out of Florida. So it was, I couldn't have asked for anything. I didn't know what to get because we didn't have a number one. Our number one was Bradford. So, and if you look at that, he was definitely the best quarterback at this draft.
Well, Tony, thanks for the phone call, and that's an interesting point that when you talk about if the Vikings needed a quarterback, would you agree that Sam Bradford, I'm not talking about back in his heyday, but if you had to pick between Trubisky or a Deshaun Watson or Mahomes, do you take Sam Bradford? I don't know. Knowing what I know about Sam Bradford, short-term Bradford, long-term the other three, I think. But, the interesting thing about the Minnesota Vikings, and Tony mentioned the amount of guys they brought in as undrafted free agents, they had no first-round draft pick, and they still wound up with 11 picks. So it's not as if they were shorthanded on draft day. They just didn't have a number one, but I would argue, Tony mentioned Dalvin Cook. I mean, they got him at 41, probably a first-round draft pick in a lot of people's boards if you needed a running back especially. He wasn't Leonard Fournette. He wasn't Charlie McCaffrey. But for a while, Dalvin Cook last year was the best running back in college football, and he might have been ultimately not in long-term potential. But I think Dalvin Cook was a great pickup. Stacey, one of the things that surprised me today, we talk about the Minnesota Vikings, you talk about Sam Bradford, they didn't pick up his option, they didn't pick up Teddy Bridgewater's option. And that really surprises me.
That was a big surprise because
they must be really worried about that injury, more than I could have even thought.
Yeah, but are you more worried about that or Bradford as your future? Because he didn't prove to me that he could be it.
But I don't think that the Vikings see now either one of them is their future. I don't think that they're hoping for a Sam Bradford revival, do you? They're not going to. Well, let me just say they're not going to get one.
Well,
they're not going to get one.
No, they're not, but they're also stuck with him for this year, and they're going to have to address that next year.
Well, even if, because Bridgewater wasn't going to be ready likely for the beginning of this season anyway, right? I mean, they still don't know when he's going to be back. But still, just in the NFL with a quarterback like that, I don't care if I know almost nothing about him. I'm picking up that fifth-year option right now. I was pretty surprised that they didn't do that based on still having Sam Bradford, based on what Teddy Bridgewater has done. I mean, look, he was a good quarterback to start his career. I mean, all things considered based on his expectation. And Stacey, they last year were a really popular pick to be one of those dark horses. Everybody loves that term, but to be a team that could compete for not only a postseason spot, but beyond that. And his injury changed things, so Sam Bradford came in and did okay. I mean, it's Sam Bradford, so the fact that he was okay was like a miracle. But I don't see how you could stand back and say, well, yeah, we don't think Bridgewater's our future, but yeah, that Sam Bradford guy, we really like him down the road.
And I guess
they don't.
And I guess that's a situation where you'll have Bradford for this year. You don't know how much you're going to have Bridgewater, so.
And now you know that if you don't get Bridgewater all year this year, you get none of them the next year, right? I mean, they could renegotiate with him, but why wouldn't you just pick up the much cheaper option?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's no negotiation there. You pick up the option.
We're going to move this way.
All you do is you go, boop, and you say, option picked up. And you get him on it's an extension of a rookie deal. If you're going to renegotiate now, you come off that rookie scale and you have to pay him a lot more money. So there's no way they're going to do that. I mean, he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? If I'm the Arizona Cardinals, I'm thinking, hey, Teddy. I mean, because, Stacey, we're talking about what do you do? I'd love to have a guy like Teddy Bridgewater. Or if they end up moving on. Well.
But that's also another situation of.
I'm making assumptions.
Yeah.
I'm making assumptions about health.
Exactly.
And a couple. I know that, but I'm
No. Yeah. If you're the Cardinals and you can get a guy like Bridgewater and under the circumstances, knowing that he could be somewhat healthy for you, absolutely you go get that.
Yeah. And again, he's going to be a free agent, so you don't have to. And we've talked about this, Stacey. The one thing I'm fine with giving up to get players is money. You can give them all the money you want. Now, in a salary cap, it's a little different. Like in baseball, it's like, go for it. Give them all the money you want.
But it's how much guaranteed money.
Well, certainly. But my big thing is I'm more concerned about mortgaging your future, as in giving up draft picks, things like that. Yeah. That's what really concerns.
No.
So, but that's my point. For a guy like Bridgewater, you don't have to do that because you can just write the check. And you're right, guaranteed money in a salary cap factors in huge.
But that's a situation where you're going to have to wait till next year if you're the Cardinals to be able to go get him.
But they have to wait till next year to do anything anyway. They're not going to bring in anybody now, I don't think. I mean, you want Jay Cutler this year?
Absolutely.
You don't even – but that's the thing. People go, Jay Cutler. The Cardinals, we tend to forget that I know we're building for the future here or trying to get a future quarterback. They still have a quarterback. So you don't need Cutler now. I'll take Palmer now.
But you'll need Cutler around week 5 when Palmer gets hurt.
But then you'll need whoever else around week 8 when Cutler gets hurt or does something weird or I don't know. I don't want Jay Cutler. Keep him away from everything.
Tebow.
Tim Tebow was having a flourishing professional baseball career, Stacey.
Tebow.
You know what, though? If somebody said you want to play quarterback, he'd be like, baseball, dumbest sport ever. Somebody give me a football helmet. He'd drop that in a heartbeat. You know, you could call him, he could be on a flight, though he's in single A, so they're on a bus, right? And if somebody said, hey, Tebow, we want you to play quarterback, man, they have those emergency exits in the back of buses. He's kicking that door open, jumping out of the back of a moving bus, somersaulting and cartwheeling down a dirt road in the middle of nowhere somewhere in Carolina.
Tebowing as he lands.
Well, of course. Probably Tebowing the whole time over because it's fulcrum there. Yeah, he'd give a baseball in a heartbeat. We wouldn't even have to think twice about it. And plus, I know like he's playing and all the other good, but man, I tell you, minor league baseball, like from a lifestyle, horrible. Unless you're like 22 and digging it, but he's not, and he's been a professional athlete at the highest level. He's made a bunch of money. Why?
Because he loves it.
Does he?
Obviously, or else he wouldn't be doing it.
I don't know about that. Hey, very quickly, the NFL draft. I got a little carried away there with Vikings of all teams. I've noticed this. Arizona was shut out of the draft, as you heard in Jason Barr's updates. A few guys, Alua Fanene, Trey Griffey, Paul McGlure have signed undrafted free agent contracts. But, Stacey, I don't know if you noticed this. The Colts signed Trey Griffey, and I don't know if it's still there, but if you went to ESPN.com this morning, I'm going there right now. If you went there this morning, okay, it's not.
He was on the front.
It's not there anymore. He was in the top headlines. They have 6 of them every day, and they're the big stories in the sports world. Stacey, did you notice that he was one of them?
I did notice that. I also noticed that they fired their vice president of football operations.
Now, what was
Jimmy Ray?
But what was the bigger headline?
Oh, definitely Griffey.
Why?
Because of his name.
I know, but that's my point. Is the
Yes.
the firing of the assistant general manager is a much bigger deal than a UDFA signing. And I like Trey Griffey. He's a really nice kid. He's a good player. And for all that he comes from, you would never know it besides looking at his face because he looks just like his dad. But he's very humble. He's very quiet. Doesn't like talking about himself or his dad very much. I have no problem with Trey. But I hate these stories. It's like we're only talking about him because his dad was great.
Yes.
And his dad was great.
Well,
but it's these are non-stories.
I think it could be
crazy.
decent situation for him, though, in that he could make the team.
But that's not even the story. The story wasn't about even making the team.
That's the problem.
That's what drives me crazy.
That's not what the story is.
No, the story is, hey, look, the kid's kid. Yeah, NFL contract. Cool. But no, Stacey, what you said, that's what bugs me, is if you look at Trey Griffey's body shape, if you look at what the things NFL position coaches, especially wide receiver, want out of their guys, he is it. And his numbers are not there, but Arizona has had a huge quarterback problem. They've had an offensive line problem. I mean, and earlier on when Arizona had better quarterbacks and offensive lines, there were other receivers in front of him. Yeah, Arizona's been stacked at receiver for several seasons now.
I think he might surprise some people there in camp, and I think he might be able to make that team. I mean, they got a couple of really good receivers in T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief.
And a history of good receivers in the last decade or so on that team.
But other than that, I mean, now you're starting to stretch for receivers there with guys like Dorsett and Rodgers.
So maybe the story becomes football, not baseball. Heaven forbid.
Well, for me, that's what it was.
No, I know that.
Football,
I'm not criticizing you. I'm calling out the digital content guys at ESPN for not fabricating stories, but for missing the story. Forget about Ken Griffey Jr. Let's talk about football. If it's a football story, let's make it that way. Last call coming up on ESPN Tucson, 1490 and 104.9 FM. ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. I'm Zach Clark. Great to be with you here for a few more minutes. Izzy in Spain is coming up next year on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM. D-backs return tomorrow. They in our nation's capital. 4 o'clock on Tuesday, 4 o'clock on Wednesday. Stacey, what time? On Thursday, is it 9:30 a.m.?
Yeah, coverage starts at 9:30.
So that'll be our first morning game of the season.
I believe so, yes.
Excellent. And then 5 o'clock on Friday, the Diamondbacks will be in Colorado. So 3 games in our nation's capital, followed by a weekend set in Denver. All of those games here on ESPN Tucson 1490. So you go on a business trip. Stacey, you and I went on one a few weeks ago. And you think about, if you're in sales or advertising or you work in sports or whatever, you think about where you go, right? I've been on business trips in places like Hot Springs, Arkansas, Hot Springs is actually pretty cool. It's a pretty cool city in Arkansas, which there aren't many of them. So take my word on that one. But usually when you're, in the NBA or in the playoffs for that matter, you don't think too much about that. But now if you're a businessman going to some conference, you're thinking, oh, I don't want to get stuck in the middle of nowhere. I want to be in a cool place where I can have some fun, right? Test the nightlife. Well, Matt Barnes is not that pleased with the Los Angeles Clippers bowing out of the playoffs yesterday because now the Golden State Warriors have to go to Salt Lake City. So,
I don't get the problem here.
Well, I'm going to read you the quote.
Well, okay.
Now, let me tell you what the problem is.
Okay.
Quote, no comparison. There's no such thing, man. There's no nightlife in Utah. Obviously, as players, you want to be able to have a little bit of nightlife. But the main focus is winning games. Me personally, I want to get out there because I want to beat the Clippers. That's my former team, and my kids are out there. But as far as nightlife, there's no comparison to nightlife in Utah and L.A. There you go. I just wanted to get that out there.
All right.
He said the right things at the ends of sentences. He didn't start them the right way.
Well, here's the thing is, why aren't you just taking your kids to Utah with you?
Well,
why not just...
Well, I don't know. Hold on. Let's not assume that all of our lives are the same. I don't know what the mother, father, child situation is. Well, I'm just saying it may not be that simple.
Well, maybe it's not that simple because you've had a nightlife and maybe you should.
Well, yes, that's a different story.
And I guess the biggest point here is you're going to spend, 3 days in Utah?
Yeah.
You're probably not going to be going back there. Yeah. So what's the big deal?
Well, here's the thing. I don't have a problem with his thought process. I don't have a problem with him thinking this. But, dude, shut up. Don't say it. I think a lot of things that people would say, oh, my God, did he just say that? No, he didn't say it, because why would he? He kept it to himself, like a normal person. I'm not sure you want to be advertising. But, Stacey, this doesn't matter. The Warriors are winning this series. And if they don't, it's not because Matt Barnes had too much fun in Salt Lake City. Man, shut up, dude. But, I mean, of all the things Matt Barnes is not good at in his career, being quiet has got to be one of them. Think he'll look up Derek Fisher while he's out there? Maybe they mix it up a little bit? If I was Derek Fisher, I'd follow Matt Barnes around. I'd be going to all these games, sitting in the stands, staring at him.
Because that's not weird or creepy.
Who cares? The whole thing is weird and creepy. You've already crossed that threshold. Screw it, man. I want to thank Jason Barr and Adam Green. Stacey, right at you. We're back tomorrow, short show 3 to 4 before the Diamondbacks and Nationals. All that right here on ESPN Tucson 1490 and 104.9 FM.